So I guess we'll kind of rehash that conversation.
Yeah.
Born and raised here, sitting in the big chair right now.
Yes.
Is that full circle-ish for you? Is this something you always dreamed of, sort of?
Yeah, it's whenever we first go through the hiring process with the Asheville Police Department, whenever we do our interview with the hiring manager, now it's a sworn position. Back then it was a non-sworn position, and the hiring manager was Tammy Hubert. And one of the questions that they asked was, what is your goal within the police department? What is the highest rank that you would like to achieve with your employment here? And so at the time I said, well, I guess my ultimate goal would be to become chief of police at the Asheville Police Department, and I never expected that I would be here now.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week.
Yes.
Take me back to last week. Were you caught off guard with the retirement, then the immediate resignation, and then ultimately your interim promotion?
Yeah. So these last 2 weeks really have been a whirlwind. There was a lot of stuff that unfolded rapidly, and surprisingly, I was out of town last week on vacation. So I think I spent more time on the phone than I did actually on vacation. But it was a surprise, but kind of not, because it's Chief Zack had built an expectation and a legacy of wanting the next police chief to come from within the agency, and that's one thing that he's really worked hard at over the last 3 years, is trying to build up our command staff to where we are in a place where one of us could eventually take the reins.
I guess, was it a surprise to see him go so soon? When we initially talked to him almost 4 years ago, he said he wanted to be here for 5 years.
Yes.
He didn't quite hit that rank. I guess, was that a surprise to you guys?
It was a bit of a surprise. We were fully hoping and expecting that he would stay here for at least another year or two. So we are sad to see him go, but we are very appreciative of all that he's done for our agency, especially to increase our pay, our training, and our equipment, especially given our staffing challenges.
So he put in that letter of resignation on Friday, and I know you said you were out of town. But
Yeah.
did you have any phone conversations with him since then? Have you spoken with him?
No, I have not, especially being out of town, and there was so much stuff that was going on. I wasn't able to have a phone conversation with him.
You've been at the department a long time, gone up the ranks, and I'm sure you've noticed in the last decade we haven't been able to keep somebody in the big chair for a long time. In your opinion, why do you think that is?
Oh gosh, so Asheville's a unique town that has unique challenges, like a lot of other places. When I was hired in 1998, Chief Will Anarino was the chief at the time, and he ended up doing a 10-year term as chief, and so we've had a variety of chiefs since Chief Anarino. We had Chief Hogan, Chief Anderson, Chief Hooper, Chief Bailey for the short stint, and then Chief Zack. And a lot of them brought a lot of good strategies, plans, policies that they had at the agencies that they came from. And we've gained a lot of information from a lot of those different strategies that they brought from other organizations, and I think we've really capitalized on those. But we have a lot of local talent within the agency, and the Asheville Police Department has a great executive staff team and a great management team. So we are, I think we're really in a place to where we can take our internal team and all of the institutional knowledge that we have, all the relationships within the community that we've developed, that I've developed over the last almost 26 years, and use that to best serve the citizens of Asheville.
So as an officer, between 2011 when Chief Hogan left and I guess now when you were in leadership at this point, but
Yes.
Does that turnover affect morale of the officers? Is there concern?
So it does. You know, when we have a quick turnover of chiefs of police, it can create a lot of unknowns, which equals, you know, instability within the agency. So my goal is for us to have a seamless transition, a continuity of leadership, so that officers know and understand like what the expectations are. We already have those relationships, and they know who the leadership team is. They know who I am, and also the community knows who we are and how to get a hold of us. So I really think having stability within leadership within the Asheville Police Department helps filter down that stability to the officers, which helps them better serve the community.
Do you feel like we are stable right now in leadership positions?
I do. I feel like we're stable. We've got I've got a great executive staff team. Deputy Chief Jackie Stepp. She has been in the job for over 15 years. Has a great background in community relations and a lot of the relationships that she's built. Captain Sharn Artema, who's over patrol, is doing a great job in that role. Captain Jonathan Brown with community engagement. He's from within the agency. Captain Joe Silberman has criminal investigations and has been doing great in that role. Captain Janice Hawkins, she's in logistics and does a great job with budget concerns, which are equipment, vehicles, and everything tied to logistics. And then Captain Brandon Moore is over recruitment and career development, and he has been doing a great job in trying to get recruits in the door, increase that recruiting pool so that we can increase our staffing. And so it's a great team.
That recruiting piece is a big thing, obviously, especially over the last couple of years. People are leaving law enforcement. Where is APD at right now with officer deficit, and are you seeing kind of maybe a pop back up of people coming back towards law enforcement?
So we're fingers crossed. We have 11 candidates that are on the board after our first testing phase, and that'll be for the summer fall 2024 class. So we're hoping that we continue to get more on the board to be hired. We have 4 that just completed field training, so they're on their own now, helping out on the road. We have 5 officers that are graduating BLET this Thursday, which will start their field training next month. And then we have 5 cadets that are starting the academy next month. And so we're kind of breaking even for the year. We're seeing a bit of a positive on our staffing levels, because we're at, instead of 40% operationally, I think now we're down to 38%. So I really hope, and I think that we are going to continue to get more applicants and increase the applicant pool and the cadets that we have.
How many that 40 to 38%? How many staff? How many people is that?
Oh gosh, so I think what we have within sworn officers is 174. So that 174 is the number of officers we have, but that doesn't take into account officers that are out on family medical leave, vacation, officers that are out injured. So that's what makes the number go down, and that's what fluctuates a lot from that 40% to 38%. We've had a lot of retirements over this last year, so that's why we've pretty much broke even with our staffing. But again, with this current applicant pool that we have, we're seeing better numbers than what we've seen in the past.
So those numbers sound encouraging. What does 100% staffing? What number is these? 174 is what we're at now. What is 100% sworn staff look like?
Full sworn staffing at the police department is 238.
Okay.
And so we were actually at a 10% overhire when May of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about the issues. I'm
Okay.
sure you know what they are.
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about downtown.
Yes.
We've recently, and this got out of downtown as well, but the window smashing thing, this is just a recent example. Do you plan to address any of these issues differently? I guess we can take the window smashing specifically, if you want to use that as a specific issue that we're currently dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan to continue what the department is doing, or are there any changes you want to make investigatively about that?
So we with staffing being a challenge, we have limited resources to be able to address these things. So whenever we have a crime spike, we really rely on our crime analyst to be able to make sure that we're getting the accurate data as far as where these crimes are occurring, time of day, day of the week that the spikes are occurring. And then we try to deploy our resources strategically to where we're putting officers in the places where those crimes are occurring. So we have the benefit of having a really strong crime analyst team to be able to give that data to us so that we can conduct operations, we can increase our patrol presence, our uniform presence within those areas that we're seeing our crime spikes. And we do a combination of both. So we hope that through increased officer presence on the street in those certain areas that it'll prevent the crime, but that's not always the case. And given our limited resources, we can't be everywhere at one time. So that's why it's important sometimes for us to do a variety of operations, whether that be gun violence operations. We're having that current spike in Kia and Hyundai thefts. We're working collaboratively with the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office because now they're experiencing cars being stolen in Buncombe County's jurisdiction. So we've got investigators that are working together in teams to be able to try to figure out who the suspects are and trying to work with the community to take that information in also so that we can address and reduce these thefts and other crimes that are happening.
Hang on 1 second. Sorry about that. I had a tickle in my throat to get started. It was not going to last.
No worries.
You brought up the sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. The sheriff has talked about putting deputies downtown. Have you talked with the sheriff in the last 3 or 4 days about that?
Yes. So actually I had a conversation with the sheriff the other day. I think we're going to have further conversations next week, but we appreciate the sheriff's office willingness to help supplement our presence downtown. And so we're going to look at different ways that we can collaborate to try to show not only an increased presence downtown, but also in other problem areas that we have. They have the co-responder program that they're having, and that we hope, that's one thing that we hope as we increase staffing that we're able to do is to have our own co-responder program with the community responders with the Asheville Fire Department. So there's a lot of different ideas and innovative plans that we have in order to address crime, and we're hoping that with increased staffing we can start getting these things off the ground.
I mean, have you guys seen, or can you see a difference when you have patrolled officers or even deputies downtown? Tourism is obviously such a huge part of Asheville. Mm-hmm. Downtown is a huge part of tourism. Yeah. Can you see tangible differences with uniformed officers out there? So
yes, we see tangible differences with the increased presence of uniformed officers. I think that the last 3 years have been a testament to that because there's been a reduction in that uniform presence downtown and in other areas throughout the city. So with that reduction, there's this permissive environment for crime to occur. So I think if we increase presence, that will help. But in addition to that, it's important that we have enforcement to follow that up because sometimes that uniform presence is not enough, and we have to have enforcement to be able to address some of that outrageous behavior that we've been getting complaints about over the last 3 years.
And you need officers to do that, right?
Yes, exactly.
That all goes back to the hiring thing.
Okay. It does.
The other big issue, always, homelessness is talked about in this city all the time. How does your department deal with that? How do you help the city address the homelessness crisis?
So I think we have a variety of ways that we help the city to address the homelessness crisis. We have our community engagement division that works very well with our outreach providers and with other city staff and with other homeless advocacy organizations to be able to try to persuade folks to start a pathway into housing. We've seen, I think, a benefit to the opening of Compass Point Village out off Tunnel Road, to where they have those almost 85 beds that have opened up for permanent supportive housing. And so, we try to help them to facilitate making sure that those people are there, those people have the safety needs that they require to feel safe. So we have a lot of great partnerships with Homeward Bound, with Western North Carolina Rescue Mission, with Haywood Street Congregational Church, with Scott Rogers and ABCCM. A lot of these folks are doing great work within the community, and we appreciate having Code Purple shelters to be able to take people to whenever it's freezing temperatures outside. And so that's a helpful alternative for us to be able to have a place other than jail to be able to take folks who just need a warm place to stay. And so we're hopeful that other opportunities will open up for officers to be able to if someone needs a ride to a shelter, if there's an expansion of shelter services, that would be another place where we could take folks whenever they need to get out of the cold or just need to get resources. I think the BHUC, Behavioral Health, and RHA are expanding their services, so we look forward to partnering with them on that. But there's a question out there about criminal enforcement and the unhoused also, and so it's important for folks to understand that just like any segment of the population, you have folks that commit crime and don't commit crime. So you have some great unhoused folks that are currently in their situation, and they're just trying to get by day to day, getting the needs that they have and get the resources that they need. But then you also have a segment of the unhoused that prey upon other unhoused and commit criminal violations. So it's important for us to be able to be outreach and help the folks that need that help, but also hold people that are committing crimes and are out there being dangerous, hold them accountable for their behavior.
Are you encouraged by the sessions that the city is holding on homelessness, that series over the last couple months, I think? I
am. So I think the sessions are very helpful. I think Debbie Alford's doing a great job in presenting that data. Emily Ball and her staff have been doing a great job in trying to educate the community about the realities of homelessness and some of the circumstances that lead people to be in that unfortunate place in their lives. So I think working together as a community to be able to determine, who out there needs the assistance, who out there needs outreach to come out, and who needs to be held accountable for crimes that they're committing and that dangerous behavior. I think through a collaboration of us all working together, we'll be able to determine the differences between those two.
A couple more questions for you, then
yeah.
I'll get you out of here.
Yeah, no worries.
Chief Zack started in February 2020.
Yes.
It is December 2023. Where's the Asheville Police Department in that almost 4-year stretch? How have we improved?
Yes, I definitely feel like we have improved. I think Chief Zack did a lot of great things for the agency. I think he brought a focus to staffing, the need to support officers and make them feel supported, both internally and externally. So increased pay, better equipment. We now have our DNA analyzers, we have drones, we have the command bus. We have a lot of different equipment that helps as force multipliers. And it also helps out there with officer safety, but it also helps to make sure that not only officers are safe, but also the community as a whole is safe as well. And then training. We've had a lot of great training that we've been able to attend over the last couple of years, between learning different forensics procedures to different leadership protocols, different innovative ideas that we've brought back from training. So that's been a help also. So I think currently our department is in a great place. I think we need to increase staffing. I'm continually concerned about officer burnout and officer safety. It's been my experience over the years that in order to properly take the time to de-escalate situations, you need more officers and more time to be able to do that. So I really want to continue Chief Zack's work in getting us more staffing, becoming a more competitive by salary and benefits agency so that we can attract the best candidates.
Is that a pie in the sky thing, or is that something you think you can actually do?
I think working in collaboration with City Hall, with elected officials, I think that we can become more marketable and that we can increase our applicant pool.
Okay. You are interim chief Mike Lamb. Do you want to be Chief Mike Lamb?
I hope when the time comes, I hope that I can be the full-time chief of police for the Asheville Police Department. I was hired here under an Asheville native, Will Anarino, and so I hope to fill that role as well.
And those conversations you obviously have with the city, right?
Yes.
And how does that process unfold, if you can tell us?
I'm not sure at this point because there are a variety of ways that this process can unfold, and I know the city council, city manager's office, and staff are currently looking at what that process can look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything?
I thought I could go off the top of my head.
Okay, good.
Anything you wanted to say that I didn't ask?
Yeah, I would. I guess the additional thing I would say is just I would encourage the community to please continue to show support for our officers because they have a difficult job that they do day to day. I'm constantly impressed by the dedication that they have and by what they do on a daily basis because they go out and they see people in their worst circumstances and they try to give them hope and they try to make them feel safe, and sometimes that's a hard job. So these officers have to see a lot, they have to deal with a lot in order to make our community safe. So I just encourage everyone to continue to show support for our officers and continue to thank them whenever you see them out and just tell them that you appreciate what they do on a daily basis.
Could that national sentiment of a sort of a anger and disgust towards law enforcement from a few years ago, you guys could feel that every day?
We can. I think it's that sentiment of like disgust and distaste towards law enforcement. I think that is drastically reducing though, because we are on a more regular basis hearing folks say thank you for what you're doing and really taking the time to tell officers, we thank you for being out here. One example of that is the parade, the holiday parade we had back in November. We heard a lot of, thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping us safe.
What does that do to a person?
It really, just that feeling of validation towards public service, towards keeping people safe, really helps that officer to feel better. It also feels great whenever someone comes up to you that you've had to arrest in the past and say, I was in a bad place in my life, you locked me up, but now I was able to turn my life around and do better. And so those are always good to hear, in addition to like the domestic violence cases where you have a victim who comes forward and says, you saved my life. And when the officer hears that, it really helps them and it validates what they're doing on a daily basis.
Awesome.
I do have one quick question.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, you've been around for quite a while. You mentioned Silverman. Quentin Miller came up through APD. Artima has generations worth. Is there something to be said for consistency?
I believe there is. So I believe that that consistency helps to grow the. Actually, I think that consistency helps to increase the service to the city of Asheville. It helps increase that service and improve that service to the community because through consistency, you know what your goals are, and you also know what the community expects as well, because in Asheville we have a variety of communities. Each one of those communities have different expectations for what they want officers to do. You know, we may have one community, like for right now, we have the Hillcrest community that is concerned about double parking within their neighborhood. And so we're working with the residents within Hillcrest and also Housing Authority to try to have voluntary compliance on it. But then if we need to do enforcement for parking, we can do that. And we're working with Park and Services on that also. But then you have another community that may have a different expectation. They may be more concerned about gun violence and want us to address that. So I think knowing the city, knowing the communities, knowing who the stakeholders are, we don't have to guess at what those expectations are. We understand, you know, here's your most pressing issue within your community that you want us to address, so that we will work on that.
Good.
We got a couple of t-shirts.